If you have discovered this video, welcome to Weaving Wednesday. Hello, this is Jen from Windrose Fiber Studio. I started sharing some weaving every Wednesday as a way to keep myself on track with my works in progress, and I also use it as an opportunity to just visit and chat with you so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. That was my ice maker. The project I'm working on today is going to be a shoulder bag, and I am using this super bulky fluffy yarn, which is giving me a fabric that's very shag rug-like in texture, which I'm going to use as the base of my bag. And then I'm going to come in later and sew on some card woven lace trim to really accentuate it. So I'm kind of playing with textures and weaving styles and just having a good time. I know you can't see what I'm doing super well because it's in my lap, but really I'm just doing straight weaving today and chatting a little bit. I'm hoping that if you find yourself here, that you might see this as an opportunity to pull out your project, whether you weave, knit, crochet, do any kind of crafting. We can use this time as an opportunity to get a little work done on our projects. I tend to just chat about whatever is on my mind. If you would like to get to know me a little better, please feel free to ask questions in the comments below, and then in next week's Weaving Wednesday, I will try to answer any questions. Mostly, this is just kind of a quiet, peaceful time where I try to get a little work done and stay on track with my weaving projects. Okay, I just did all kinds of adjustments to my camera, and I don't think that helped a whole lot, but I'm going to carry on. It's getting late in the day, so I don't have a whole lot of time for weaving before I need to head out for the day. And I really do want to get a little bit done. Today is Earth Day, so I'm filming this on Tuesday, April 22nd. Happy Earth Day, happy belated Earth Day. My son and I went out this morning to pick up litter, which is our Earth Day tradition. He is very good about going out and doing that off and on all year round. He's very passionate about taking care of our planet. He also does a lot of gardening and is an all-around good human. This morning we went out together, and it's always sort of interesting to go out picking up litter. It's interesting to see what you discover when you're out there. We live along a river, and because we're in the Sonoran Desert, most of the year it is a dry riverbed. And it's not like a river you would imagine if you live somewhere that's not the desert. I think it's fairly easy to imagine a dry riverbed, but our dry riverbeds have a lot of plants growing in them, even trees. There's a lot of underbrush. But one of the things that happens with our dry riverbed is that it ends up getting quite a lot of litter in it. It'll come down through the washes when there are rainstorms. We have a lot of big windstorms here, so any litter that's out in the world often finds its way to the riverbed. So after kind of cleaning around near our property, we went down into the riverbed to fill up a couple of bags and make that look a little bit nicer. We did have one lovely lady stop and thank us for our efforts. That's always nice. And I guess I brought it up because one of the surprising things that we found almost right away when we went down into the riverbed is someone had created a fire pit and found an old paint can that it looked like they were using that as their chair. And it is so dry here that all of the brush in the river is super dry. So if a spark got away from them, the whole river could catch, all of the brush in the river could catch on fire so easily. And there's a lot of homes and businesses on either side of the riverbed. So it was really, and our home is very, very close to where we found this fire pit. And so that was a little unsettling. And, it's kind of like, it makes me really nervous to find something like that. But then I also feel a little guilty dismantling it because maybe that fire pit is keeping somebody warm at night. But I have to say we erred on the side of safety from fire today and dismantled, kind of broke down their fire pit area while we were cleaning up litter. What would you have done? Would you have left that there or would you have broken it down? I don't know. But and then just all the litter you would expect, lots of beer cans. I think people will buy a case of beer or 6-pack and go down into the riverbed late at night. I think there are some parties that happen down there, but all sorts of things that you come across. And every year, it feels really good to spend a little time and pick up some of that litter. It is a beautiful place, and the litter is bad for the environment and really takes away from the beauty of the riverbed. So many creatures, so many animals call the riverbed their home. They don't need our plastic, around their home. But and then every year I sort of tell myself I need to do this more often. And that's always the thought that I have in my head whenever I go out and pick up litter is I need to not have this be an annual event. It should be a much more common event. I should be doing it on a regular basis. I'm especially feeling that since I found a fire pit. Like, scary. What if they come back tonight and rebuild their fire pit? So I don't know that I want a fire pit in the dry riverbed very close to where I live. That is making me nervous. So that was my morning. I'm sorry that you can't see what I'm doing very well. Is there some way for me to prop this up so you can see it? You know what? I'll pivot. I'll go sit on the floor for a few minutes so you can actually see me weave. And I'll get a little more weaving in, and then we'll say goodbye for today. Give me just a second. You are here in the front room of the studio. This is where I journal in the morning. I have a singing bowl. I kind of start every morning with journaling and some quiet time. The other thing I wanted to talk about and maybe even get your opinion on, if you happen to also crochet. I'm in the process of working on my next crochet tutorial. So for this pattern, I've decided to use stacked stitches, which I really like for the pattern. Let me show you the fabric. Since you're here, this is the fabric so far. I'm going to hold it up so you can see. Aren't those colors pretty? So this is a ripple stitch, and I've modified the ripple stitch a little bit. I did a tutorial for this stitch, and I changed it for this project, and I'm using stacked stitches, so the edge of it is really nice and straight. And one of the things I wanted to chat about today is kind of the definition of a stacked stitch. And I have just seen, so I've used standing crochet stitches for a really long time. At first I wasn't sure what I thought of stacked stitches when they started making the rounds. I think crochet became popular. It was having a moment on different social media platforms. And with that came a lot of tips and tricks and hacks, all those sorts of videos. And the stacked stitches were definitely there. And sometimes when things like that go viral, it turns me off a little bit, even if they kind of look cool. And like, you know, it's like I both love crochet becoming popular and I'm a little afraid of what it means when something I love becomes popular. Like I don't want to ruin it. But I've really warmed up to stacked stitches. So stacked stitches generally are when you start a row without a turning chain. And so if you're starting, let's say you're doing a row of double crochet, instead of doing a chain 3 and turn, and then either counting that as the first double crochet of the row and skipping the first stitch, or just letting that chain 3 not count as the first stitch and be that little bit of extra fabric that, you know, creates that little bit of wave on the edge of your fabric. You know, that's generally what we do as crocheters. And with a stacked stitch, you're just eliminating the turning chain, which I think can be nice. It's a very, you know, from a person who writes, from the point of view of someone who writes patterns, it definitely streamlines the writing process if you're just using a stacked stitch, and then you're not having to explain to people whether or not a turning chain counts as a stitch or not. And, you know, the one thing that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're newer to crochet, is keeping track of their stitch count. And so I think by eliminating the turning chain, that makes that process a little bit easier. So I kind of like it for those reasons. But here's where I'm going with this. So, because I've used stack stitching in this pattern and I've called those stitches by name, then I start to worry, am I calling them the right thing? Is this the standard terminology being used by the crochet community? And the definition of a stack stitch that I'm most comfortable with is that a stack stitch is a stitch that, let me see if you can see that. So a stack stitch is a stitch that is stacked directly above the stitch below it, creating a steady column of stitches, and it eliminates the need for a turning chain. So this is actually a stacked single crochet. Below it is a stacked double crochet, which is the height of a standard double crochet. And I think it gets really confusing if you call a stacked single crochet a stacked single crochet and then you're stacking 2 of them together to make a double crochet. Like, I think using language like that makes it confusing. So I think just differentiating between a stacked single, a stacked double, a stacked treble. That's just easier, you know, to visualize in your mind. And so I am really working with the idea that a stacked stitch is a stitch that is directly above the stitch below it and is created without the use of a turning chain, and that it can be a single or a double. And and it's funny because even though I have a really small channel, every time you make a decision like that, you're worried that people will find you. That'll be the video they all watch and then say, no, no, you're wrong. So, but that's what I'm going to do for this video. And I guess I'm giving you an opportunity to let me know if you think I'm wrong, or weigh in, or, you know, if you think me calling, you know, me using the term stacked single and stacked double, if that feels confusing. Like, I would really welcome your feedback on stacked stitches. Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you you know, you know, it's kind of funny because I've sort of thought they were silly, and now I like them. And you know, it's not like you're saving a lot of time eliminating those turning chains. You're not even making a fabric that looks all that different. And there's so many projects where it just wouldn't matter if your edges weren't perfectly straight. But I have gotten to the point where I just kind of love getting to the end of a row and just flipping over my piece and jumping right into the next row, you know, working whatever stitch I want to work into that first stitch, whatever that stitch may be. I've just gotten to a place where that's really appealing to me. So that is on my mind today. And if you're watching this and you crochet and you have thoughts, you know, I would be really interested in hearing your thoughts on stacked crochet stitches. So that's Weaving Wednesday with a side helping of crochet talk. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.